In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the steps to create a game on Hopscotch called Crossy Roads. During the process of creating this game, you will learn how to create events and loops, and will also learn about sequencing and using the X and Y axis. The goal of Crossy Roads is to navigate a character across the screen using a control panel and avoid obstacles along the way. In this case, I've used a turtle that will navigate across the screen as I press the control buttons. And the object is to get to the trophy at the top of the screen, and once you hit the trophy, the game will tell you that you win. To get started, we need to open the Hopscotch app. And once it's opened, it takes you to the main dashboard, and to create a new project, you're going to have to look down at the bottom of the screen, and there's a bluish button with a plus sign. Press that, and now we're being prompted to create a name for our project. So I'm going to title mine Crossy Roads. And once you've typed that in, press Start Project. And now we have our blank screen, and this is where we'll do all our work creating our game. Looking down at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a plus sign. To add our first main character, we'll need to use this plus sign. And for the main character, I'm going to use the chicken emoji. So we're going to look under the text section, and you'll see a button with happy faces and the letter A. Press that button. And since it's emoji, we're going to go to the happy face near the bottom left of the keypad and click on that. And now I'm going to scroll through to find the chicken, which is right here. And once I have the chicken, I'll press the check mark. And I'm going to move the chicken near the bottom of the screen because that's where I'll want the chicken to be when we start our game. The next task will be to add a control panel. So for the control panel, we're going to use up arrow, left arrow, and the right arrow, and those are also emojis. So we'll have to add each of those characters. So using the add button, going back into the text, finding the emoji, and scrolling almost all the way to the very end. We'll choose our up arrow and then press check. And I'm going to move my arrow to the bottom left of the screen. And now we need to add the left arrow. And finally, the right arrow. So at this point we have our main character and our keypad, but none of our buttons work quite yet. So what we'll have to do is program some rules into the chicken. We want to make our chicken to move up on the screen when we tap the up arrow. So if you actually hold down on your chicken, and drag it along the screen, you'll notice that there's numbers. So we have the x-axis that moves from left to right, and then the y-axis moves up and down. So to move the chicken up, we're going to want to change our y-axis. So click on your main character and say add code, and we're now taken into the events screen where we can start creating events or rules. So for this one, we want to choose is tapped, and by default, the block will say when the iPad is tapped, but we want to change that to when the up arrow is tapped. So click on the little icon of the iPad, and this will open up all the options that you can program. So we're going to choose the up arrow, and we want to change the Y axis. So we're going to go to movement and change Y by. So when the up arrow is tapped, we want to change Y by, and we'll go 25. And you can sort of experiment with how fast you want your character to move, but this is what I'm going to choose to do. And click the check mark. And it's always good to check your code before you actually move on. So in the top right hand corner, you'll see a play button or a triangle. Press that, and now we can test out the game. So when we press the up arrow, our chicken should move up on the screen, and it does. So now to get back to our working screen, you can press the pencil on the top right hand corner, and that'll bring us back to our code. Now we have the up arrow moving, but we don't have the left or right. So the next job is to add a new when. So clicking underneath our blocks that we already chose, and we're going to choose is tapped again, and change the iPad to the left arrow. And for left and right, we're going to use the x-axis. So we want to change x by, and to move left, you're actually going to go negative 25. And choose the check mark. And then while we're in the same screen, let's add a new when, and is tapped again. And we're going to change that to the right arrow. So when the right arrow is tapped, we want it to move. So we're going to change the x by, and we'll move positive 25 and press the check. And now we'll press the play button on the top right hand corner just to make sure we've done that properly and test it out, and that's working. So now you can exit this using the top right hand corner of the pencil there. Our next task will be to create the obstacles. So we will go back to our working screen by pressing the pencil at the top and Xing out of our chicken's rules. And so we're going to want to add a new object. So again, we're going to add the cars using the emojis. So the text object, going to the emojis, and I'm going to scroll until I find the cars. And I'm going to use the red car and press check. And I'm going to place it sort of on the screen there. Now, before we move forward, I'm going to bring you back to the game, and we're going to analyze the game to see what the cars are actually doing. So in the game that I previously created, watch the cars to see what they're doing. They're actually moving back and forth, and when they hit the other side, they'll actually turn around and go the other direction. Now you'll notice that my red fire truck, there's a bug in there because it's actually driving backwards, and I kind of left that in there on purpose so that you can kind of see that that's something that you could debug later and fix. And sometimes it's nice when you're showing a tutorial to your students that you could actually have them debug what's happening here and come up with a solution. Now we're ready to make the code for our red car. So we need to exit out of the play mode. So we'll go to the pencil at the top right corner of the screen. And click on the red car and say add code. So remember, we want the car to move back and forth and repeat this over the duration of the game. So we want this to start as soon as the game starts. So our when button is going to be when the game starts. And we're going to go to movement, and we're going to choose move forward. Now move forward works a little bit differently than changing the x-axis. because initially when you input a positive number, it'll move to the right, and a negative number will move to the left. However, if the object flips, it'll actually do the opposite. So in this case, we want to move our car the full length of our screen, which is minus 900, because we want to move it to the left. And then when it gets to the edge of the screen, we want it to flip. So we're going to press the check mark and go to our movements and press flip. Now, once it flips, we would essentially want it to move all the way to the right and then flip again and move to the left. So rather than continually putting in these blocks, we're going to actually create a loop. So we'll move to the control and choose the blue block, repeat forever, because we want this to repeat for as long as the game is played. And so now we want to move our previous blocks into the loop. So you can actually, if you grab the right-hand side of the block, you can drag it into the repeating loop block. So you'll also want to move your flip. And it's really important that you have it in the correct order. So make sure that you have the move forward minus 900 first, and then the flip block next. So now let's test that out to see if that actually worked. So let's press the play button at the top right-hand corner. And you can see that the car is moving across the screen and it's flipping as we would like it to do. To make the game a bit more difficult, I want to change the speed of the red car so that it goes different speeds randomly throughout the game. So to do this, we're going to exit out of the play mode by clicking the pencil at the top and clicking on our red car, C code. And underneath the flip block inside the repeat, I'm going to click on the white space and choose the set speed block. And so when you look at the set speed, you can actually set the speed to any number. I want to set it at random, so we're going to go to the purple blocks, choose random, and then for our first number, we're going to choose 200, which is fairly slow, and the maximum will be 600, which is fairly fast. Now, to learn how fast they go, you can sort of experiment with it, but I've already done that, so we'll press check, and we can test it out to make sure that that works, and it does. Now, I'm going to show you a quick way to make another vehicle. So if we go back into our working page, and we're in the code for the red car, and if you click the top of when the game starts, the purple box, and hold down, and then lift up, you'll be able to copy the code, so press copy, and I'm going to X out of this on the top left-hand side, and I'm going to add a new car, so I'm going to press the add button at the bottom of the page, open a text, and choose emoji, and now I'm going to choose the yellow taxi, and press check. And I'm going to move my yellow taxi just above my red car, and I'm going to add code, and inside the pick a when, I'm going to hold down on the white screen and say paste, and so now all that code has actually just copied right into the yellow car. And so now I'm going to press play to see if that worked properly, and it did. Let's make this game a little bit more interesting by adding a new rule to the chicken that if the chicken hits one of the cars, it will become invisible. And this will sort of signify that the game has ended and that you will need to restart. So let's exit our play mode. And now we're going to set a new rule for the chicken. So click on the chicken and see code. And we're going to scroll down to the bottom and we're going to add a new when. And so our new when will be, if we move over to the right, we're going to create a collision. So if the chicken bumps the red car, then the chicken will turn invisible. So we'll choose when the chicken and then bumps the red car. And for pick a block, we're going to move to the green looks and sounds and choose set invisibility. And we're going to set that at 100%, meaning that it's 100% invisible. And we'll press check. And now we'll also do the same thing for the yellow car. So we'll move into when and create a bumps. And let's go into when the chicken bumps the taxi, we'll set the invisibility to 100% again. And let's press the check mark and press play, and let's make sure that that works. So let's bump into the yellow car. Yep, and we'll restart. And let's see if it works with the red car, and it does. For the final part of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add a prize at the end. So if you recall when I showed the initial Crossy Roads game, when the character got to the end of the screen, it had to try to get the trophy, and when it got the trophy, it said you win across the screen. So to do this, we're going to need to add a new character. So add at the bottom and a new text object, and then go to the emojis again, and I'm going to choose the trophy and click the check mark.